Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So, updates out, Yondu and Deadpool X-Force have gotten their buffs. So as always, we're going to be taking a look at Yondu pre-buff damage and how he functioned, and then post-buff. So, we're going to start with non-synergized build. Now, fair disclaimer, I do have max tech mastery, and in this case, it actually slows down Yondu a bit. So his results have been slightly decreased because opponent gains less power, he uses special attacks slower, so Yondu ramps up slower, he's level 2. That being said, I do have max deep wounds, and the mastery setup is identical for every single one of these. So, I forgot to take a screenshot of Yondu before I started. But the point of Yondu is that he can inflict bleed with his Yak Arrow strikes. Pre-buff, it is 25% chance. Post-buff, it's 40% chance. So we should be seeing significantly more bleeds post-buff. And here you can see that it ticks for 134. The rest of Yondu's kit and attacks are very, very basic. Another thing that I remember slightly later in the fight is that by spamming heavy attacks, you have a higher chance to inflict that bleed, but it didn't seem to help all that much. Virtually all of Yondu's damage play, pre and post buff, is his level 2. His level 2 gets progressively stronger the more special attacks opponents manage to use. So Yondu is never going to be a sprint type of champion, but he does have potential to amp up to higher damage. Now this is a rank 1 Sig 120 Yondu, just FYI, but his Sig ability is not getting altered to any degree and is quite bad. Sig ability simply inflicts weakness on opponents for 5 seconds when they use special attacks for each debuff they are already suffering from. But their weakness didn't last nowhere near long enough for it to have any kind of meaningful effect unless you are taking special right to the face and happen to have debuffs on. And this is the level 2, so here we can see at this point it's already hitting for like 6k. But I'm gonna spare you guys a bit. Should I spare you guys a bit? Well, we're gonna fast forward because this is definitely gonna take some time. So we're going to fast forward here a bit, and I think here we can safely say that we have reached peak damage on Yondu's level 2s, I would say. You can see that the bleeds, again, are still ticking for 134 per tick. If I trigger a bleed on my level 2, it has a potential to be more potent. However, I never seem to trigger any bleeds on my level 2, so you can see here again, 0 bleeds, nothing crits, and I'm still hitting for like 3k with all that increased attack bonus. Needless to say, I was actually quite shocked how bad Yondu's damage was, just because before I recorded Yondu's fights, I recorded Deadpool X-Force, who virtually has no abilities aside from bleed on level 1 or whatever. And Deadpool X-Force blew Yondu pre-buff out of the water easy, with no problems. It wasn't even close. And yeah, here we can see that we are struggling to put on any meaningful amount of bleeds, even though we get spam our heavy attacks, which should give us an increased chance. And the level 2s hardly ever inflict bleed, and even, you know, with the maximum ramp up, at most they crit for like 10k, so there isn't any meaningful amount of damage coming from it, even, you know, fully ramped. Now there, I do not know. So I have been having issues with Dex and Parry quite a bit today, I'm not gonna lie. So there we eat a Winter Soldier level 1, just because why not type of situation. And here we are, still struggling with the fight. So we lost our combo there, carrying on. It's not looking too great for us. So the finish is going to come here any moment. And it was 313 hits, 6 minutes and 41 seconds. Right. Ironically, Yondu also has virtually no synergies. Now, I could have used some tech synergies, but it didn't seem to flow too well, because if I bring in Mr. Fantastic and one of his synergies champions for the power stings, it didn't seem to do much, and it didn't, you know, flow together for a decent team. And aside from that, bringing in Captain America Infinity War and tech synergy would just slow Yondu's ramp up even further than my color tech mastery already does. So, very, very basic champion. So only things that have improved, we have slightly higher attack, slightly higher crit damage, slightly higher crit rate. So that's a basic kind of like mutant based stat team, is the best help we could basically provide for Yondu. We couldn't even use a KO'd Nick Fury because he isn't a hero, he's a mercenary. And likewise, we wouldn't get much benefit from Magneto's House of X pre-fight either there. So Yondu is actually arguably one of the worst champions to synergize anything with. But hey, here we are. And as a result, the result is hardly any different. You know, it is going to be quicker. The numbers are slightly higher, as we're going to see by the bleeds, by the crits. We do get like, you know, few K increase with crits somewhat more often. However, Yondu's bleeds are not tied to crits, so we didn't really get any increase in our bleeds. And here we can see now they tick for 148, so they are slightly more potent due to name or synergy with Magneto that, you know, increases the attack. And here, level 2, crit for 4k. We do have 11k crit, and that is at our max ramp up. And the total fight time is, 1 second, here we go. The total fight time is 5 minutes 15 and 270 hits. So we did shave some off. Obviously, it is improvement, but basically nothing to rave about. And now this is going to be post-buff Yondu. So virtually only meaningful changes to Yondu that have been done is that we have slightly higher chance to inflict our bleeds. Went up from 25% to 40%, but again, since only 2 hits in your basic combo are Yak Arrow strikes and 1 hit of your heavy attack is Yak Arrow strike, it doesn't really do that much. Those bleeds are identical in strength. The strength did not change. It's just that we do have slightly higher chance to inflict them. The other thing that changed about Yondu is that he has more potent level 2. It ramps up exactly the same based on how many special attacks our opponent has thrown. Instead of increasing the attack damage during the special attack, it actually gives us passive furies now that are meant to last for 14 seconds. And that is good, but as we can see, they just do not seem to be either potent enough or last long enough, because we can't maintain like a substantial 100% uptime to them. Even if I close in on my like 3 bars of power, I pretty much never get back to my level 2 in time. And even though there is more damage, undeniably, going from extremely bad, one of the lowest damage output champions in the game, to still mediocre at best damage, I would say, and not receiving any meaningful upgrades to his utility. His signature ability hasn't been changed, so it's still just the same shitty weakness. His level 1, again, does have a nice long heal block, but again, in order to be using level 1s, you need to forego all of your damage increase, basically. And I always dislike champions that require you to sacrifice your damage for, you know, some utility. And also, heal block isn't that big of a piece of utility, especially considering that Despair Mastery exists in a game. There are many champions in a game that organically shut down opponents' healing without having to sacrifice anything, like Archangel, like Warlock, and I don't know, Penny Parker, if she's decently high 6, so on and so forth. Champions that just happen to have heal block in their kind of like basic rotations as you are trying to utilize them to best of their ability. So now when you are kind of forced to go either or, and the grand reward is heal block, it just doesn't seem worth it. So for most part, I'd say level 1 is kind of worthless, and aside from heal block, Yondu doesn't have that much going on for him. I do feel like they cut this buff short. I was hoping that the level 2 buff is going to provide significant damage increase. Here we can see that even with 12 Furies, you know, the damage is higher, but it's not like Winter Soldier is overwhelmed by bleeds. And, you know, yes, the cool thing is that whilst I have my Furies active, if I do inflict the bleed, those bleeds are significantly more potent. As we can see, they are ticking for like 600 damage there, which is obviously much more than we did on our base. But again, previously we crit for 14k, now we can crit for, previously we crit for like 10k, now we are able to crit for 14k. What I'm getting at is Yondu needed much more than this. He really did. Yondu has some decent basic hit, but now we have champions that can crit through block and gain power. Like, Yondu also can crit for block, but it's not guaranteed. Also, the bleeds are very inconsistent. We have champions that virtually inflict bleed on every single hit, like in Frenzy, for instance, Moleman or something. And, you know, there are many champions that can spam bleeds. And it just seems kind of robbed. Even like when we take a look at Karnak rework, who also, you know, has a very high crit chance and he can crit through block, but at the very least, he can maintain his furies the entire fight, and then on top of that, he also can gain power through hitting opponent's block. It's just so much more potent kit than whatever Yondu is getting. And it's not like Hanek is blowing, the game wide open. It's not like he's absolutely OP. So unfortunately, I do have to say that Yondu, is going to remain exactly the same thing that he is right now, just slightly better. I don't think he's, in my personal opinion, and again, if somebody disagrees, that is perfectly fine. In my personal opinion, I don't think Yondu is remotely good enough to warrant me, using any catalysts on him. If he was one of the first champions I acquire, I doubt I would give him Ice or Gold. He's Arena champion. I think he's gonna remain Arena champion. I was genuinely hoping for better numbers, for kind of better flow from him. That improvement in amount of bleeds you apply is there, but it's, again, slight improvement. He doesn't have any meaningful synergies. He isn't a part of any meaningful teams, as I mentioned before, as being a champion that's very hard to synergize for. Those furies do not last anywhere long enough. And aside from that, again, a tech champion with no immunity, nothing really going for him. Yes, he can steal prowess now, which, can be kind of clutch, but again, I think if he would be like one of the first champions I get on a new account, I doubt I would give him the time of the day. I'd just use a lower star, better champion. That's it. Full synergy team. Yeah, he did better. Fair enough, but I just don't think it's enough. I just don't think it's enough. Even for a new player. Again, my advice for new players would be save your catalysts, use your lower star champions. The question would be, in Act 5, do you want to use 6-star Yondu or 4-star Nimrod or something? You'd go with 4-star Nimrod, probably. Either way. Yeah, unfortunate. Let me know what you guys think. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Catch you guys soon. See ya.
Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about